Welcome, everyone, to the Feed Friday Future Fit Leader Series, Episode 5. It's my honor to welcome today you all, our encouraging participants, our guest speaker, and the team Feed Fridays. As we will now be commencing the program, I request everyone to kindly switch off their microphones and be with us here to take the discussion forward. I also kindly request the participants to fill up the form that has been sent on the chat box. Please provide us with your details so that we can keep you in touch for upcoming sessions as well get your valuable feedback. I would now like to welcome Mr. Anirudh Singh, who's an integral part of Feed Friday series and who's also going to be taking the discussion forward here on. Anirudh Singh is HR and business transformation professional with about 25 years of experience in corporate HR, talent transformation, OD, learning, digital transformation, and change management across senior and leadership roles such as lead HR president, CHRO, with leading organizations including some of the world's most admired Fortune 100.
आधे घंटे
Can I
में
please
चलेंगे, आधे पौने घंटे में।
Can I please request all participants to kindly switch off their cameras?
अरे वो अनिरुद्ध का मैसेज आया, वो सेमिनार है ना उस पे।
Can I please request all participants to kindly switch off?
Ragini, please mute all, and Priyanka, please unmute yourself.
खेलने जाना है, चल तो फिर दादू तैयार है।
I would now like to welcome Mr. Anirudh Singh, who is an integral part of the Feed Friday series. Anirudh Singh is the HR and business transformation professional with about 25 years of work experience in corporate HR, transformation, OD, learning, digital transformation, and change management across senior and leadership roles, HR, and he's held roles like head HR president and CHRO with leading organizations, including some of the world's most admired Fortune 100 companies like Gillette, P&G, Huntsman, and JSW. During the 25 years of professional journey, Anirudh has led several initiatives for organizational development and cultural change. He has also helped the companies to redefine their HR strategy by incorporating HR data analytics into the goal-setting process, refocusing on employee experience. To you, Anirudh Singh. Please take the discussion forward.
Thank you, Priyanka, for such a nice introduction. I welcome all the distinguished audience and immediate leaders. I'm pleased to welcome you all in the 5th episode of Future Fit Leadership Series. I'm the first time hosting this series. My colleagues were hosting it. So it's a very warm feeling of having such an eminent audience and eminent leaders. So, the business world is arguably on the cusp of most significant period of transformation. Since the first industrial revolution in the late 1700s and early 1800s, it is the first time that we are facing such a kind of major transformation. The business world industry 4.0 is presenting both challenges and how to respond to these challenges and also the opportunities. So it is one side, a lot of challenges, another side is opportunity, which could be the organizations with right skills, take advantage of new trends and emerge as a leading players in the sector. So the entire goal of this series is how we can identify those trends so that the leaders can take advantage of identifying those trends and take the advantage of it and become the leading player. So Future Fit Leadership Series is a premier online conversation series focused on leadership and its challenges. In this VUCA world, we are committed to exploring, understanding, and addressing the corporate community's most challenging issues. Every Friday evening from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., we invite a thought leader involving CEOs, CHROs, and CXOs across industries and sectors. Basically, this conversation is structured around 3 dimensions: future, fitness, and leadership. As the name of the series suggests, we explore and understand how leaders are envisioning the future. What are some of the critical shifts happening and bringing new challenges and disruption? Second is that about the fitness, but this is a fitness we are talking about beyond and encompassing personal fitness, which has 3 dimensions again: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, 4 dimensions rather. But it's including future readiness to deal with the emerging future and create fitness conscious organizations. So fitness not strictly in terms of the individual fitness, but also the fitness in terms of the attributes, the competencies, and the skills needed to deal with the future. And at the last component is about leadership. It is about to discuss the state of leadership and its impact on creating how future-ready organizations, mental health and diversity and inclusion, etc. issues also we cover. Apart from that, how the leadership landscape is changing. What are the skills, leadership definition per se, the concept of leadership, how it is evolving and changing in the fourth industrial revolution. And also I would like to briefly introduce the 3 organizations. So this is the series which has been brought to you by the FutureLista in partnership with the Safe Foundation and My Safe Space. FutureLista is the organization which is a kind of boutique HR consultancy firm, which provide and research firm, which provides all sort of the HR solutions from talent acquisition to talent development to talent management. Coming to the Safe Foundation. Safe Foundation is a non-profit organization exclusively dedicated to developing ecosystem for PWDs. They have got AI-powered job portal, and also it is a complete platform where they are facilitating the collaboration of all the stakeholders. And then My Safe Space is a mental health organization that aims to spread awareness to make mental health appreciated and accessible to all. An inclusive platform, My Safe Space provides comprehensive solution for all mental health related concerns within the educational institutions, corporate community, and community at large. I would like Priyanka to introduce our today's guest. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, Anirudh. Thank you for giving such a nice introduction of Feed Friday series to our new participants. And I'm sure for the recurring participants, we're really happy to see you back here. And we really hope that the new participants join us again next week for the recurring engagement. I would now like to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Harish Goyal. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today. Mr. Harish Goyal is the CEO ZSL Group USA and also leads the health and the wellness business with more than 2 decades of in-depth understanding relating to media, telecom, infrastructure, health and wellness, consumer durables, and electronics. Harish drives group's strategic discourse with a staunch belief that media and telecom and health synergies in partnership will accelerate the pace towards the global goals. Harish has a deep attachment and passion for business and growth potential. He has led multiple new setups and has been an enabler in achieving exponential growth across industries and global markets. Harish has accomplished success with his superseding performance in planning, execution, and launching of new products and businesses, leading to transformation of business in Asia, Pacific, and Africa as the CEO of these continents. Further, an eminent leader in the industry, his past positions span in global companies like ACME Group, Indus Towers, Times Innovative Media Limited, Bharti Group within business acumen. On the academic front, he is an IIFT alumni and a Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics from Nagpur University. Welcome, sir, and we are very excited to have you with us today for the Feed Friday Future Fit series. I would now pass to Mr. Anirudh to take the discussion forward with Mr. Harish. Thank you, Anirudh.
Thank you, Priyanka. What an illustrious career, Harish, you have. And you have such a highly diverse experience in all geographies, industries, and functions. It is rare to get such diverse experience, the leader having such a diverse experience. So, the very first thing was coming as the series, the Future Fit Leadership. So I was wondering, and I just wanted to explore with you, how is the future taking shape? What are some of the key shifts happening around the future? How you see the future in next 5 years, 10 years? What are the significant trends and shifts taking place and impacting organizations and leadership at large?
Thank you, Anirudh. Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you everyone for having me. Good evening to everyone. It's a great honor to be speaking to all of you and sharing my 2 cents. First of all, the past few quarters have been quite significant, and we have been going through unprecedented times and situations. While we have been actually, reading, and our focus is quite a bit on COVID and what's happening around the globe, I see that at the same time, there are a lot of businesses, those are moving at a much faster pace than it had been before. Whether it is banking, telecom, infrastructure, technology, digitalization, all these have been actually, and the supply chain above all these segments I have been seeing doing very well in the last few quarters. And because there had been not too many people on the roads and using these already half-built infrastructures across countries like India, wherein we have a huge population of 1.3 billion, this had in fact fast track our own infrastructure building in the country. And at the same time, I have also been seeing there are a lot of new jobs which are getting created across the globe in these segments. And a lot of companies are in fact sourcing talent from India, which is a much younger talent from India that is getting sourced. If we Google and try to see as to what is happening, we can take a small example of a city country like Singapore, which had last year announced as to how many thousand AI and the young professionals is the banking industry in Singapore going to hire this year to fast track the digitalization and the banking fast forward I would say strategy. We have also been seeing with the COVID second wave, first wave, third wave, or whatever number of waves we may call it, as to how porous are the international borders, the speed and the pace with which these variants move from one boundary to the other, despite restricted flights, limited travel. It shows that how big potential are we sitting on in terms of the opportunities and the business from a country of billion plus people. Digitalization, as I said, has really fast tracked the speed and the pace with which 3G to 4G to 5G is happening. And the fact that today we have been able to connect and speak to each other from across the globe, different boundaries, different time zones, but we are ever connected. In fact, I feel that we are more connected than before. The amount of communication individual is able to have with the families, friends, business associates, colleagues is much more now. Systems, we human being is we evolve very fast. The pace with which we have got ourselves used to the environment of working from home, working from living rooms, has also in certain way made us efficient, because the travel time between the morning to evening and evening to morning travel time in busy cities of India is actually has increased the, I would say, average efficiency time. At the same time, even the average age of a aggressive manager, because while I have I had operated for larger part of my career from big cities of India, Delhi, Bombay. I remember 3 to 4 hours being spent just on travel, and now that is actually added to our efficient working hours, which means the ever topic of work-life balance I see it as, a perfect balance situations wherein I myself have actually, uh, have relooked at how many offices we need across the countries that, I have been managing, how big spaces are required. And we have also realized that, for the amount of time we have incurred the cost without using the infrastructure of office. So eventually, all the employees have let their homes convert into offices. And so these are some of the significant shifts that we are already seeing in the businesses, in the individuals, in the, whatever size and scale of a business may be. If I give a typical example of, what has been possible to do is a fact that I am speaking to all of you from Singapore, and it's been 15 months that I have not traveled out. The longest ever since I have started my career that I have not traveled for this duration ever before. And in last 1 year, while I have been able to manage and do a running of the offices across the continent of Africa, having 5 time zones, and last 8 months running office in New York, which is exactly 12 hours apart. So that has been possible only because technology supported us. I would also, before finishing this part, I would like to give an example of I was speaking to a grandfather of my neighbor, the German gentleman, who is close to 100 years. And while the COVID started, we were all very disappointed. And one day we were sitting together and asking as to, how we were just saying that, look, how bad it is that, there is pandemic and kids are home, their education is suffering, they are not able to go to school. Gentleman heard for a while and then he told his personal experience. He said, remember that in my age, this is the second pandemic I'm seeing. The first one he had seen while he was young, 12 years. And the guy said, look, I stopped going to school, and your kids are fortunate that they are still learning. The learning process has not stopped because technology is there. There was no online classes 100 years back, 90 years back, 80 years back, even 40 years back. And he said he had to do his education, schooling, colleging when he was at the age of 44 years. So you can imagine, we are right now 30 people on the webinar. Most of us seem to be in this age. And just imagine we going to school and colleges if we were in the age of a German grandfather. Thank you, Anirudh. Back to you. Unmute yourself, Anirudh.
Yeah, thank you, Harish. You have very well summarized the disruptive forces which are influencing the complete business landscape. And I think these, to summarize, these three disruptive forces are digitally connected. That word is getting more and more connected digitally. And you have given an example that last 15 months you have not traveled. Still, you were able to manage the offices across the continents. And that shows how this world is completely connected, and physical presence has been replaced completely by digital presence. Another AI and big data, because like banking industry, etc., is looking to make their systems more efficient, and they're hiring the new talent, young talents, and India is becoming a big talent provider for the world. And another thing also is, Harish, I think the automation and robotics is also quite a lot improving upon, and this is also driving the complete change in landscapes. So these are the things, and I think it is moving toward better world, more employment. Rather, people are thinking it will be eliminating the job, but it is elevating the human lives, elevating the way we are living. It is making us more efficient, more productive, and lesser have lesser trouble and lesser stress. So I think overall, there is nothing to be being fearful about the disruptive forces. They are not going to eliminate the human being, but they are going to elevate us and make us better in the future. So when these changes are happening, disruptions are happening, and the world is completely changing, the business landscape is changing, leadership become very, very important. And traditionally, we have been thinking around leadership is that it is about leading, envisioning, directing, providing solutions while performing and transforming. So we used to look at the leader who's someone who is going to provide us the solutions, a leader which is the source of power. It was a very highly heroic perspective about the leadership. I see that is also changing as the business is facing wave of disruptive influences. The way professional work is evolving is also changing. What are the top, in your view, what are the top mindset and skills that future leaders must master to address the challenges due to disruption and thrive in this environment? And how organization can stay competitive in this environment by repositioning, reimagining the leadership quotient itself? Harish, over to you.
Excellent question, Anirudh, and good topic again to discuss. So first of all, I would say that health had been always in the subconscious. All of us knew how important health is. However, life was too busy. Life was too busy to in reality follow the health routines. And I'm talking again comparison of, prior to COVID and the present times. What were we doing earlier during the extra hours or the free time? I remember it was a norm to finish the office work, come down in the building on the ground floor and sit in a pub and talk to the colleagues and friends and with the families. That used to be the life. And the topic of discussion used to be that everyone has been extremely busy and we are not able to follow the health routine. Because we go to sleep late, we are not able to wake up early, and we want to, some of us wanted to pursue walking, jogging, going to fitness centers, doing different hobbies, activities. I must say that at least, we have an opportunity now to do what we could not do earlier. And believe me, people have really changed their health and habits. Health is not in subconscious anymore. Health is in conscious mind now. The amount of efforts I have seen people around me and my own circle made is significant. The walking trails used to be not so busy, but now, of course, I see them extremely busy. Having spoken about health, Anirudh raised an important topic that people go to leader looking for a solution to the issue. That was always a situation that people will go to their reporting managers, discuss the issue and find a solution. It used to be physical boardroom meetings. Meeting rooms were very busy, and I'm talking of physical meeting rooms in person, wherein people would sit across the table, discuss, and largely people who used to actually come to you with the problem or an issue, they themselves used to give a solution also to the issue. I see a slight change in that trend now, wherein when webinars or the e-meetings happen, it's a dialogue, but definitely the expectation from leader is that, look, I have come to you with this issue, give me the solution before the end of this e-meeting. And leaders are also stretching and exercising their gray cells and trying to find solutions to the issues at large and issues to be addressed in hand. Third thing is a significant shift that I see 3 quarters back to the now. Suddenly from seminars to webinars, webinars to, and also meetings to the e-meetings, establishing the system of working from home, there used to be concerns from a lot of people around, whether it is my team or my friends who are representing and leading their other companies. It used to be that, how difficult it is to work from home, and the entire work-life balance has already got disrupted. Of late, I have seen that things have stabilized. When things got better and I tried to get teams back to the office, I can tell you the amount of questions which were asked by the team that, is it possible to continue work from home? Will some functions be allowed to work from home? Is it not going to be a norm? So which means that we do adjust ourselves to the changed environment very fast. And that is the strength of us human being, that we have to immediately get adjusted to the environment and to these changes. And I see a definite better world order that is coming and taking place now, because a lot of these excesses that we had got used to have already gone out of our mind with this duration of 15 months of what all of us have seen it. Thank you so much, Anirudh. Back to you.
Yeah, Harish, thank you very much. You summarized very well how the complete leadership paradigm is changing and shifting. I think one of the key messages which I got is that future fit leaders needs to be more innovative, adaptive, and collaborative. So it is not the same that you are sitting inside a cabin and the person will come and ask for a solution. So there is the end of the manager to have all the answers, but it is about finding the answer together. And not only that, I think the future leaders needs to be a coach, a futuristic, tech-savvy, and digitally fluent, a master communicator, and emotionally intelligent. These are the people who will be the future leaders. And also there is a need of mindset change, as you mentioned, that human beings are very, very adaptive, and we are quick to adapt with the new situations. So I see that, yeah, I mean, we have to embrace diversity, to practice humility, to embrace technology without neglecting the needs of the employees, and open to embrace the unknown. So whatever is coming, you have to be always open to embrace the unknown. And how quickly you are able to embrace and adopt, that is going to be the key deciding factor. That's what I have got from you, Harish. Thank you very much for this, your enlightened thoughts. Now, I request Priyanka, who is a co-founder and director of My Safe Space, and she is a trained psychologist, and she practices in counseling and organizational psychology. Priyanka has done her double MSc education in psychology at the University of Edinburgh and King's College London. She has a diverse work experience in mental health in the UK, India, and Indonesia, and has also contributed significantly towards research in the field. She has worked with eminent organizations such as the King's College London, NHS UK, Harpridge, AIMS, and SLV, and contributes to fulfill her ambitions in mental health within India via Safe Space. I request to take forward the conversation with Harish. Priyanka, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anirudh. Thank you for bringing out so much about me, and thank you for connecting with me to Mr. Harish. Mr. Harish, I also want to reflect something on the conversation that you and Anirudh were having, and I think it was very, very important and insightful when you mentioned that health has become a concern that is not in the subconscious of people anymore, but has become a conscious thing that people pursue. And I think drawing to that, you also mentioned that it's not only a behavior that people have incorporated in themselves as a very important factor of their everyday life, but also when you say that people go to their bosses to ask for solutions, I think health is also one of the solutions, which I'm sure, mental health, as I'm going to be focusing on in my conversation with you, is also probably a solution that people are asking now in your organization to their bosses. So you've already set the tone for it, and I would like to ask you something on those lines. Um, as the future is disruptive, and we know that now we've seen that there's a lot of uncertainty that is coming in, and this uncertainty is something that we believe is going to stay. And as a psychologist and as a human being, I understand that people resist change, and uncertainty is definitely one of the primary cause of confusion, fear, stress, and anxiety. There are reports that are discussing that there are world workplace depressions, and corporates are now hiring professional services in mental health and well-being for their employees. I would like to kindly ask you, have you been able to manage stress through these times? And I would also like to know from you, how important do you recognize mental health and well-being for a leader to achieve their desired outcome?
Thank you, Priyanka. Absolutely very relevant and valid question and a topic. Uncertainty. Let's talk first on that. There was always uncertainty, whether it was pre-COVID, during COVID, or even post-COVID in the quarters and months and years to come. However, there was a new element of uncertainty added to it because no one ever thought that we will be confined to our homes, we'll be confined to the rooms, and we will not be able to meet our friends, families, will not be able to travel. But look how fast all of us adjusted to the new environment. And the question is, how do we ensure business continuity and business sustainability during these uncertainties? I would say the biggest moment of uncertainty was February, March 2020. Now, we have already mentally and from all aspects prepared our businesses and ourselves for any eventuality that may come. And what are those eventuality from business continuity perspective? One is, what if this situation prevail and continue for next few quarters or even for next 2-3 years? If we reflect back and think what was told to us when we first heard about COVID 15 months back, some of reports already told us at that point that one, there would be a vaccine available within next few quarters. Vaccine was available, is available. We were also told that mask may need to be worn for next few years. It's a debatable topic, but I am personally convinced that probably that is going to be the order for next few years. And I speak more on this because last 2 decades I have spent significant amount of time in Asia Pacific, wherein even in early 2000, I have myself worn mask. I was in Hong Kong when the other variant came. And in 2009, 2008-9, when the swine flu came, my family in India, we had got infected that time. So we still remember. So mask continuity will remain. And I had seen Far East Asia, Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, these countries, people used to selectively wear masks. And I used to always think that maybe, these guys underwent kidney transplant and they're trying to save themselves from infection. Whereas, it was probably something which we are now practicing. Then coming to the topic of, adjusting ourselves to the environment wherein your team comes to you, and maybe the managers itself are actually undergoing some depressing time and tough times because due to these different unforeseen situations. I'll try to address it from both sides. One is as a manager. I'll also try to tell you as an individual. And at the same time, I have also been on the other side of the situation wherein I am in the business of health and wellness. And that's what you see in the photograph behind me, which is our health and wellness resort in New York, which is spread across 1400 acres. And here in this resort, we don't call it a resort, actually, we call it Yovan Health and Wellness Center. We treat with these medical conditions, which are like boosting the immunity or dealing with the depression, dealing with the health conditions, whether it is the lifestyle based or the change situation, health situations. And now first, let me talk about, how employees actually, undergo these different tough times, which affects and impacts their effectiveness and deliverables. I'll give a practical example wherein in one of the offices I lead, my CFO got infected. And like any other person, got himself admitted in the hospital on 2nd of January, midnight, my time, but his, afternoon time. And the guy called me saying, Harish, just, will you make a payment to the hospital for my emergency admission? I can tell you that the guy remained, he was CFO of my entire continent. The guy never came out of hospital. After 3 months of treatment, he passed away. He was 40 years. And whoever was working in that environment and geography, I was far off, 6 hours apart from the country. The entire office underwent a depressing feeling because one of their colleague was in hospital and they used to hear that the guy is not able to breathe. And he was a young lad, never been taken any sick leave ever in the last 7 years he worked with me. This is a situation which really impacted, and we are now sitting in India. You can imagine who has not seen this environment in their families, in their friends, or in at least in their neighborhood. So the best remedy as to and I must myself also part of that thing, because it was families coming, relatives coming, and these colleagues and the team members coming. Every evening, one used to actually think that how do we restart the work tomorrow? First few things being, although I am in the business of media also, I have not switched on the TV since a year. It may be a strange thing that, I'm not connected, as if I don't know what is happening in the world, but there is so much of content being consumed and fed into your smartphones, which all of us have, which we have used even to log into the today's discussion. However much effort we can make to stay disconnected, information which is relevant, information that you are looking for will come to you. Best is to consume what is good for you and not go with listening to spicy opinion makers who would actually try to impress on the situation as if world is going to come to an end. Having spoken on this part as to how do oneself remain out of this environment, I think if we individuals start following their own healthy habit, which is an opportunity available to all of us now, because lot of restaurant eating or the dining has been reduced now. It is more of the dine in at home, which means, all this while, if we are talking about, the what do we eat, what do we consume, what do we think. So I have spoken a lot about, if you want to think healthy, watch something which actually doesn't confuse you, but build on your own thought process. What you eat becomes yourself. So this is an excellent opportunity for all of us. And then, building and changing our own habits. If we have not changed our lifestyle and habits now in the last 5 quarters, then probably, the issue is with us, not with anyone else, because we don't want to change. We don't want to be healthy. We just want to talk about being, concerned about being unhealthy. And as a business, I have personally taken a huge shift of moving from entertainment media that I had been managing for all these 7 years to the health and wellness sector in the last 3 quarters. And I'm talking of health and wellness business itself. A lot of people ask me that, Harish, do you have any prior experience of running a health and wellness center? No, there was not a prior experience of running an entertainment media company either. However, if we are wanting to learn something new and keep ourselves busy, I think, there is an internal energy that keeps you so much charged and happy that you are not worried about what is happening in the outside world. Important is to stay positive from inside. Whatever may happen by the end of day, at, at the end of day, when we go to sleep, let's reflect on what has been done, and then, keep and remember only what has been positive things that I have contributed to me personally, my family, my company, my country, and the society at large. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rish. I think it was extremely, extremely well answered by you. Some things that I took out from your discussion with me, I think one was that motivation, and I would just like to bring this across, is motivation. When there's internal motivation for anyone, I think that really is something that drives us. That is something that resolves a lot of conflict, gives us that energy to carry on. It helps us resolve conflicts as well that come on the way, and helps us get through the challenges in all. So I think that is extremely, extremely well put out by you. And I think another thing that you said is that when you when you are doing something that you really want and you staying positive. So I think again that values that you hold and something that you are attached to on a personal level comes to the forefront. And I think these are very, very integral and extremely vital points for mental health. And like you rightly said, that, talking about mental health or talking about being healthy is not the only thing. We need to start practicing it, and we can be our best, we can be the best examples for our own self. Incorporating these habits on a daily routine is extremely vital. On this note, I would also like to extend my condolences to your colleague and their family. I think it's deeply saddening, and it's very sorry. I know things in the past have been very uncertain, and whenever there's a loss like that we hear about, it is something that still touches everyone's heart. So extremely sorry for that. I would now also like to just mention at this moment to our audiences, if there are any questions that you think that you want to answer, that you want Mr. Harish to answer for you, please put them on the chat box, and we will have Mr. Harish answer the questions for you. I would now give the mic to Anirudh Singh to please take the discussion forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka and Harish. It was wonderful listening to you, both of you. Harish, one of the shift which I am looking at is also the demography of workplaces is completely changing. We have multi-generational workforce, multi-ethnicity workforce, and gone through a lot of researches and studies and discussions and found that the diversity is the key for innovation. And if you look at the organizations which are more diverse, are more productive, more efficient, but if the inclusion practices are not aligned, are not great, it also causes a lot of trouble to organizations, and then productivity and efficiency reduce like anything. So diversity alone is not important, but inclusion is equally important. That is one of the change happening, and that we are becoming more and more inclusive society in terms of our demography of the workplace, so multi-generational workforce, multi-ethnicity workforce. And one of the thing which I have been observing, that people with disabilities, PWDs we call them in a common parlance, they are the untapped resources. And if you look at these PWDs, they have got certain heightened senses which are very unique, are very strong, which are very special as compared to the normal human being. But look at the PWDs more from the lenses of sympathy, accommodating them on the compassionate ground, taking them in the company, a CSR ground. These are the consideration, but not basis on the competence, not basis on the bringing the special skills, but more a compassionate ground. I feel it is a very untapped resource, and as a society, we need to be more sensitive towards the inclusivity of the PWDs. How do you think this entire issue, and how the G is handling this inclusion and diversity practices and helping or enabling these PWDs to be the part of your growth and your story? Thank you.
Thanks, Anirudh. Very important topic again. One is inclusive workforces. Second is diverse workforce that will actually, not be limited only to gender or age or race or ethnicity or, the ability or differently enabled people. It's very important. And I'll share some practical experiences and how exactly did we actually get into it and how it led to success of many projects that we were not able to do earlier. Sometime I'll just try to answer the disability factor first and then come to the inclusive workforces, which is on the basis of race, gender, age, ethnicity. We are in the business of creativity. When I talk about, and this is something I'm answering from the perspective of our media business, entertainment media business. When you look at the structure of any team in any of my offices, there are few shifts which are very, very, unique to this industry. One is gender balance or unbalance. 70% of the team in any of my offices are females, and men's actually come at a premium in creativity and in my business, which means when we are hiring and interviewing candidates, the mandate HR always has this: let's try to find some men also in the team. So in some offices, it is all ladies team. And it's not because of any other reason, but the creativity quotient of the ladies in our business. Second thing is, because we are in the business of creativity, so some of the physical disabilities don't come in the picture at all. Because as Anirudh said, while one part may be less able, it is covered and compensated by the nature by making stronger something else. So I have actually already been seeing wherein one of our chief creative officer is actually has never walked on the legs, but extremely popular and has a good family and is considered as a very successful person in the career and in our media industry. Coming to the inclusive workforce on ethnicity or race, I ran Africa office for quite a long time. When I first went to lead that office in 2014, I had certain gray areas in my mind. And the gray area was that whenever I'm actually in the process of talking to the team, I would actually avoid touching the color topic in I'll indirectly try to say, look, uh, that person or this person. Eventually, I realized that while outside Africa, we may be hesitant in actually, calling black a black. Sometimes, calling black a black is considered derogative in our society. However, in the society where I lived there in Africa and I ran an office, black was called a black, white was called a white, and we used to actually, the forms used to say, what is your color? Black, white, Indian, or colored. So there were 4 colors I realized over there, and some people asked me, what is colored? And when even we made our strategy to launch some English Bollywood channels, the first description of who are our target audience and viewers was black girls age 19 to 45, LSM, which is the lifestyle index, LSM 6 to 9. So you can imagine. And then I used to ask my team that when I'm talking to the press and media, may I actually say black females? They said, yes, black is a black. It's a privilege to be black in Africa. And initially, I came with also a bit of that thing in mind, although I had already done Bharti Airtel Group's telecom business in Africa and the other, Times Innovative business also in the continent. I still asked my team that, look, when we are hiring, can we try to hire this skill set or that skill set? So when the resumes used to come after shortlisting for the final interview, I stopped looking at engineering and MBA qualifications in the people that we are hiring. And believe me, those businesses are excelling and doing very well without these, high-end qualifications, because they had learned something which is very practical. They know the local landscape. And the shift had been so much of, while at one hand managing Africa, on the other hand managing Asia Pacific, wherein there is more of Chinese dominance, and then talking about the American team, which is, all American office that we have been running. So there has been a tremendous personal learning. At the same time, I have realized that, the basic traits are same irrespective of the color, race, or, from where you come from. Thank you, Anirudh.
Yeah, Arish. So what I was saying is that you have managed the diverse workforce, and we were talking about the PWDs, person with disabilities. My firm belief is that we all are having some or other sort of disabilities. So they are not someone different. We will acquire some of the disabilities over a period of time. Some people are having difficulties in reading, we get the specs. So with the evolution of the technology, it has become very much easy for the person with disabilities to be absorbed in the regular workforce and tap resources. And with their special abilities, it becomes a lethal force. It becomes even better. So that is the area which I think corporate needs to be more sensitized. There is one question, I'm reading it. What would you say is the most difficult part of implementing DEI? So I think that when you implement the DEI, the diversity and inclusion, so having a diverse workforce is not that difficult. But the difficulty comes when you have to have the inclusion practices. So the changing of the mindset, in my view, Harish, is the most difficult. When you have misplaced sympathies, rather empathy, when you have the compassion, rather the competence, when you look at the people, look down on the people, when your workplaces are not accessible. So when you're not valuing the diverse view, and not empowering them and not treating them as the equal part of the organization. So whatever workforce you have as a diverse force would not work. So the difficult part is inclusion, not the building the diverse workforce, in my view. It's up to you if you want to answer this question. There is a question on DEA, so I thought let us take it.
Absolutely. I do agree that, I, would try to answer it more from the perspective, global perspective, instead of just limiting the thought to the Indian environment. Sometimes actually, the topic of inclusive workforce has been so important outside India for decades that sometime when I am running these international office, I see a reverse situations that, there has so much of inclusive workforce has happened. If I take while in the, earlier topic question, I was speaking about Africa. And if I talk, just continue the other extreme of what this has done to some of the economies is, in last 25 years, since South Africa got independence, there was a situation earlier wherein there were more white people in the corporates. I'm talking about 1995. And when I'm talking about 2014 to 2021, last 7 years, it's a reverse situation now. My entire workforce in Africa is the local Black people, not limited to South Africa. There's some from Mozambique, there's some from Kenya, there's some from Madagascar. And it is rare that, you will find one white person, one colored person, and one Indian in the team. So while we are trying to advocate anything, let's also keep in mind the learnings these people and these economies have, that it has to be done to an extent that the balance is not disrupted. And I will, having spoken about Africa, now I'll give you an example of Singapore. When I took over this office 3 years back, I came with that mind from Africa, having done some things which I was successful. I tried to implement the same thing, the same brush which I carried from Africa. I thought I'll use the same brush for painting Asia and Singapore. I can tell you that within the first 2 quarters, I was called by very senior officials from the country, and I was politely told that, please, let's not try to disturb the balance, the way business is done here. And sometimes our mind is, that, we are so aggressive that we try to work on our market shares and we will do anything to gain the market share. Thank you.
Yeah, balance is the key, and balance is very important. And now ask Priyanka, so we'll move to the next round of rapid fire questions. I request Priyanka to take it forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Anirudh. And thank you, Mr. Harish, for enlightening us with so many different concepts and your experiences and your learnings that I'm sure our participants are really enjoying. I would now like to start the rapid fire round. I would like to just give you the rules for the rapid fire round. It is, we have 10 questions for you and you need to answer them in one word or one sentence in about 5 minutes at most, as soon as you can, or will be best. So shall I begin? Are you ready?
Yeah,
A deep breath, maybe. Okay. So here's the first question. How would you like to define a fit leader in one word?
Passionate.
Name the top 5 rituals or habits for a future fit leader.
Time management, believe in the team, discipline, available when your team needs, and quick decision making.
Brilliant. Thank you. How have you been engaging in continued professional development throughout your journey?
I think, continuous learning itself is the answer to the question.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much. Average time in a week you devote for physical exercise?
1 hour a day, 7 hours a week.
Beautiful. That's very impressive. What is your mantra for relaxation?
Cycle or sleep.
Those are good ones. I think both are really enjoyable. What's the role of your family, friends, and colleagues in your success so far?
Very integral.
Thank you. How do you ensure the right balance, especially when the physical distance between the work and the personal space has been decreased?
It's an opportunity now. I already said that you get additional 3 hours, which you don't have to spend on travel now.
I think you're very right. I think it's about the perspective we look at with. True. How do you manage criticism and failure?
Reflect before you go to sleep.
Enough. Has the complexity of being a leader taking a different route when it's becoming virtual rather than being in person?
I think technology helped and made it possible.
Okay, absolutely. Yes, I think technology, like you rightly mentioned at the start of the session as well, that it's technology that is bringing us all together today, irrespective of where we are. So definitely technology plays a vital role in this. How do you ensure self-control and discipline as a fit leader?
I think follow a routine and it becomes a habit over a period of time.
Thank you. So you have successfully completed the 10 questions in, I think, about 2 minutes. So thank you so much, Mr. Harish. It was extremely insightful and really on point. Thank you. We've received some questions from the audience as well, but I think a lot of them you've already answered. So I'll just run through the topics they've asked the questions on. So I think the questions have been related to inequality at workplace, which you've answered. It's been related to one question Anirudh has already asked you. It also relates to how do you stay positive, which I think you've already answered. One question that comes to my mind when I'm reading these questions is like, how do you try to beat or conquer fear in your personal experience? So that's one of the questions the audience has asked.
So it's not that leaders don't have fear.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have fear, but at the same time, never sleep with the fear. Fight it out. And as my boss, the chairman of SL Group, even spoke 2 days back, while I was discussing some of my fears, his answer was, Harish, if you fear, society and people will make you fear more. So be strong and face it.
Absolutely. Extremely vital. Thank you so much. So I think that answers the question very well, that, you know, we have to face our fears. And I think that is the biggest learning in life. As we grow older, more and more challenges, more and more fears come across to us, and we just have to face them to go forward and not be afraid of them anymore. So thank you, Mr. Harish. Thank you, audience, for your wonderful participation and engagement. It has been extremely, extremely important for us to have you here with us. Mr. Harish, you were I don't have the right words to say. Your experience has been very, very insightful and engaging, and it has a lot of learning for our future fit leaders. So thank you for being a part. I would like to extend my warm thanks to the team Feed Fridays for making this event very, very successful. And I would like to request all participants to kindly fill the form that is on the chat box to give us to give us your details so that we can stay in touch with you, and also to get your valuable feedback and make this journey more and more rewarding for you. Thank you, our recurring participants, for being with us again this week, and we look forward to having you in our future sessions as well. Next Friday at 5 p.m. same time with the Feed Friday series. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Anirudh, for having the conversation
Welcome.
with Mr. Hani.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you to all the audience
Thank you.
and everybody.
Namaste,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you,
for
Priyanka.
Thank you, everyone.
being a part of this
Bye-bye.
series. Thank you very much.
Thank you.